for taking this time to review my presentation. I know it's been a tough semester with the whole COVID thing, but I think we really pulled together and, I think we really knocked it out of the park class-wise. And even though it was shortened and we've had to deal with the stress of COVID-19, I think I learned a lot. All right, let's get started. My name's Alex Olson, full name Alexander Olson. I grew up in Big Lake, Minnesota, which is off of Highway 10 in between St. Cloud and the Twin Cities. I recently moved to Hopkins with my parents, so I'm living in an apartment now. Big change for me, but I'm an operations management major. I'm currently a supply chain analyst intern at Banner Engineering. I formerly studied electronics engineering technology at a technical college, and my career dreams are to, once I graduate here in August, which I'm excited about, super excited to graduate, to obtain a job in a manufacturing planning and supply chain planning role, which it's been hinted that Banner will take me on once I graduate. So I'm really excited for that. Let's just hope the COVID-19 doesn't put a damper on that. And eventually down the line, maybe 3 to 5 years later, I'd love to go back to school for an MBA. I'm a lifelong learner. I really enjoy learning and I really enjoy new experiences. So I'd love to get an MBA, and that would help me with, my third dream of, shifting into a management slash leadership position. I just think it would be super rewarding managing your own team and being able to see them grow and, produce quality products as well as, create good projects and execute them flawlessly. My fourth one is, kind of a vow I made to myself, is that I will not go my entire life without at least trying to start my own company. It doesn't have to be a full-blown venture, but it can be something on the side. Maybe I start, I start beekeeping and I sell my honey on the side, or I have a garden, or, maybe I, start a small manufacturing company, screen printing t-shirts, or maybe I start a brand or something. It could be something full-time, it could be something I just do on the weekends, but that's definitely a passion of mine. All right, moving on. We're going to talk about strengths and weaknesses, and, chapter 2 is really the bread and butter of this, and I would go on to say that chapter 1, 2, and 3, if you're going to read 3 chapters out of the book at all, this is where it really lays it out, and I think that's pretty common with most classes and textbooks, is that the first few chapters are the bread and butter, what's going to be referenced throughout the book. But looking at the Big 5 model mentioned in chapter 2, I think my strengths are dependability. Throughout my life, I've really been, an on-time person. I've been there when people needed me. I've come in early. I'd stay late if people needed me for projects. And, even my friends know, if you call me, I'm going to pick up and, I'm willing to help you out, or I'm willing to do something with you. And, if there's something to be done, I'm your man. I'll be there. Integrity is also something I think is one of my strengths. I feel I have a very strong moral compass, and, I never say anything without reason. I think before I speak, and this allows me to, I'm not going back on my word all the time, constantly changing my mind or being wishy-washy, although there are times when I do go back on my word, but I fully explain the situation and I fess up to my previous views, and I understand that I'm changing my point of view. My weaknesses in the Big 5 model, definitely flexibility. I mean, with the move alone, moving from Big Lake to Hopkins, I mean, that's been a huge impact on my life, losing sleep about it, with the whole COVID-19 thing. It's very brutal as well. But even in my work, when something starts not going to plan, or, an idea I have gets squashed, it kind of leads me to start backpedaling and questioning, and I feel a little bit lost. And that is something I definitely need to work on going forward. Excuse me. Self-confidence is also something that I think I need to work on, and this is a key leader trait. So this is something, I'm really going to try to attack hard. And the main way I do this is, I talk my accomplishments down a lot, and I don't give myself enough credit, and when I do screw up, I'm really hard on myself. But that's one thing I'm learning throughout my internship, and internship's a perfect time to make mistakes and learn. So when I do make mistakes, I'm trying to learn and be easy on myself and, make sure I make the most out of the situation. And when I graduate this summer, I'm going to try to celebrate and, really let the accomplishment of graduating with my bachelor's degree sink in. And that will help me, build my self-confidence. Moving on, we get to motivation. And, this is mentioned in chapter 2 as well, and even a little bit into chapter 3. But, after doing the assessment in chapter 2, I realized that I have a high need for achievement as well as a high need for power. And, the way I satisfy those are working on, complex and meaningful projects. And my internship has been a great, great outlet for that. I've been working on projects that are real, the real problems that need to be solved, and they make a big impact with the company. So that's satisfying my need for achievement. I'm also receiving great feedback from my bosses. That also helps in that aspect. For my need of power, being in charge of my own projects and being allowed to be a subject matter expert on something really satisfies that for me. You know, once again, my internship's been great. It's allowed me to take charge of my own projects, lead a team, form a team, and be subject matter expert in the projects that I've been working on. Also, money's a little bit of a motivation for everyone, but it's more so for me in the situation I'm in because, I'm graduating college. I want to get out there and make a name for myself, get out of my parents' apartment, kind of get ready to live on my own. And I think this has to do with the hierarchy of needs. I'm just in that point in my life where I'm worrying about money, getting a job, and once I graduate college and get those two things, then it will be on to the next thing in the hierarchy of needs. And for motivating others, I think I kind of project my high need for achievement and high need for power onto motivating other people. And I think no matter what you have an achievement for, be it affinity, power, or achievement, giving people interesting and meaningful projects goes a long way. And I know specifically in areas I've been in, well, manufacturing mostly, some of the jobs, assembly line jobs, they're not necessarily that cool or interesting or meaningful, you could say, but if you give people insight on what their work is doing, it often makes it a lot more palatable. Let's say someone's working on the assembly line, but if you explain, oh, these parts you're making today are going into this order that are going to this company to serve this purpose, it gives people kind of a higher level view and allows them to be a lot more interested and find more value in their work. Also, I'm a big, big guy for giving recognition. And I mean, even though I'm not in a leadership position, I still give recognition in my internship. If someone works with me on a project, I'll email them once it's over and say, hey, it was really great working with you. Thank you for your contributions and stuff like that. Move on to my mentors I've had throughout my life. I've had tons of mentors. I was a machine trades apprentice. I was a marketing intern. I was a electronics technician intern, and now I'm a supply chain intern. I've had a lot of mentors, and the things I've learned are never stop learning. Your brain's like a muscle. You need to exercise it. And that means, it doesn't necessarily have to be about your current role, but about anything. It could be getting a bird book and going bird watching and learning about new types of birds. It could be learning about weather patterns. It could be something more related to your job. Maybe it's learning about, economic conditions. Maybe it could be another thing to benefit yourself, learning about financial planning and retirement. Just never stop intaking information and analyzing information. It keeps your brain sharp. Another thing I've seen with a lot of my mentors, unfortunately, and a lot of coworkers is getting stuck. Never get stuck. And I understand there's some situations where you do get stuck. You have bills to pay, you have mouths to feed, and you kind of have to put up with a less than nominal job for a while, but there are ways out. I encourage anyone. Just because you have a degree that says you can do this, or you don't have a degree, or, you're just in a bad company, you can always do something to get out, whether that's going back to school, applying to new jobs, maybe learning something on the side on your own and putting it on your resume and trying to market it. Do not get stuck. Do not feel stuck. You can get out of any situation and get into any situation you want. It's not that hard. But I've been in situations where I felt stuck, and I know how that feels and how hard it is to get out of it. But my advice to anyone and anything I've learned from my mentors is do not get stuck. Beyond inspiration, and we're going to talk about, what inspires me. And I feel like the future and, innovation, I've worked at Medtronic medical device company, and some of the stuff they do is so innovative and futuristic that, it just blew my mind. And that's something that really inspired me to work there and, you know, keep my job up and keep doing good. And I feel like this falls into, being a steward leader, you know, more focusing on the big picture kind of things. And I think that also follows into how I would inspire a team, empower people to make their own decisions and let people take control of their jobs. There's nothing worse than micromanaging someone or being micromanaged because it takes, all the power away from someone, and it just makes them feel like they're doing menial tasks and they have no power over what they're doing. Letting people take control of their jobs and make their own decisions are very key, and you'll find that people will probably perform well when they're doing this, and they'll probably perform better than if you're micromanaging them, and they will be more creative and produce more innovation. Moving on to diversity. Diversity is something I didn't really experience when living in Big Lake. Being a small northern Minnesota town, it was, mostly white people, but my first, sense of diversity is when I was an intern at Seagate. I really saw how, a lot of the employees there were of Asian background, specifically Chinese and Vietnamese, and, different cultural norms mean people behave in different ways, and, I really had to learn how to navigate that, but it was very, very useful, and I made a lot of good relationships. Ways I'll embrace diversity is by taking chances with non-traditional employees. Being a non-traditional student, I just feel soft spot for people who, maybe couldn't go to the big name schools or had to go to a community college, or their resume looks interesting compared to someone who just went to college right after school. I always want to take a chance with these people and give them a chance to succeed. Another way I'll do it is by listening and trying to understand, diverse employees' point of view. And I mentioned this before, learning cultural norms and how that affects people's decision making and behavior is huge and can help teams work together a lot. Another thing is fostering a team culture, and I don't mean coming down and smashing cliques with an iron fist, but I've been in situations where I'm the new employee, everyone has their cliques, I'm not able to become a part of that team necessarily in a social sense. So definitely try to foster team culture, break up those cliques a little bit, and, force people to be included. As the book states in chapter 10, diverse teams tend to outperform non-diverse teams. And I believe this is because, of the creativity that all of these different cultural perspectives and different backgrounds bring to the table. Moving on to my conclusion, I think my three main takeaways from the class are, just because someone's in a leadership position doesn't make them a leader. And this, this is vice versa. In my life, I've met many people who are in leadership positions, but are definitely not leaders by a leadership definition. But I've met many people who aren't in a leadership position, but are leaders. Another thing is leadership can be learned, and that's something that is once again talked about in those first 3 chapters of the book. Just because you don't have some of these traits doesn't mean you can't improve on your leadership. And finally, only you can make yourself a leader. You're going to have to put your neck out there. You're going to have to step up to the occasion, and you're going to have to prove yourself to people that, you're willing to, make sacrifices, be a little bit selfless, and lead a team. No one's going to reach out to you if you're just doing the bare minimum for yourself and put you in a leadership position. You have to make it for yourself. Now, that's the end of my slide, but I have a little bit of a bonus. I heard a speech by a former, speaking of leaders, former U.S. Senator Hubert Humphrey, and I thought I would share it with you guys because this is a very relevant speech for our time. The question is not the yesterdays, but the question is what do we do now? Knowing that the months and years ahead will severely test our America, and might I say that as this America is tested, that once again we give our testament to America. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Something new, something different has happened. There's the end of an era, and there's the beginning of a new day. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation, and I hope you have a great summer.